members, if you take your seats. We've got a full agenda today. First up, if the IT person would tell us who's online.
Samantha Potter is online.
Okay. We got anyone else? Samantha's on. Do we have Matt? Go through those two, please.
We have Jordan Mahallahan, Michelle Segan, Matt Sterling, and Mike Hine.
Thank you. Good morning, Mike. Matt, would you wake Mike up?
See what I can do.
All right. All right. First thing up is by committee members only, bill introductions. Seeing no bill introductions are closed. Folks, so we're going to take up Senate Bill 84. Matt, if you would give us a quick overview.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee. Substitute for Senate Bill 84 would authorize the Kansas Lottery to conduct sports wagering in Kansas. The lottery could offer sports wagering through lottery gaming facilities, so the state-owned casinos, by amending the management contracts the lottery has with the 4 lottery gaming facility managers. So sections 1 through 10 of the bill propose new laws to regulate sports wagering as part of the Expanded Lottery Act. Section 2 it limits wagering to only individuals of 21 years of age, allows individuals to self-exclude themselves from placing wagers. Section 3 would allow casino managers to use up to 3 platforms that are approved by the lottery. Wagers placed through those platforms can only be placed if the person's physically located in the state. This section would also allow casino managers to contract with a sports facility such as the Kansas Speedway for the sports facility to offer an area by the facility where patrons could place sports wagers. Section 4 authorizes racing and gaming to adopt rules and regs for advertising on sports wagering. Section 5 permits the lottery to restrict wagering on 1 or more sporting events by providing notice to casino managers. Section 6 provides the general requirements for casino managers when conducting sports wagering. Those include restricting certain individuals from placing wagers, maintaining security of wagering data and customer data, cooperating with investigations by the lottery, racing and gaming, and law enforcement, reporting criminal, suspicious, and abnormal activity involving sports wagering. Section 7 requires casino managers to maintain records of persons making wagers that total at least $10,000 within a 24-hour period. Those records must be maintained for at least 30 days and must be made available for inspection by the lottery or racing and gaming. Section 8 creates a cause of action for the state to seek damages and other relief against any person who knowingly engages in or conceals conduct intended to improperly influence the outcome of a sporting event when done for financial gain. Section 9 establishes sports wagering receipts fund and provides the procedure for sports wagering revenues to be deposited in the state treasury, and then for the disposition of those revenues to the state and to the casino managers pursuant to the management contracts. Casino manager would be allowed to carry forward negative sports wagering revenues from one return period to the next and have that negative balance applied against the sports wagering revenues in the subsequent period. However, a negative sports wagering revenue balance could not be applied to a prior return period. Section 10 would establish the White Collar Crime Fund. Each year, $750,000 in sports wagering revenues retained by the state would be transferred to the White Collar Crime Fund. The Attorney General and Racing and Gaming would annually submit requests to the governor for funding amounts from that fund. Sections 11, 13, 14, and 15 provide changes to the criminal code with respect to sports wagering. Section 11 creates a new crime of misuse of non-public sports information. This would be a level 5 non-person felony. Section 13 excludes sports wagering as authorized by Senate Bill 84 from the criminal definition of bet. Sections 14 and 15 increase the severity level for crimes of sports bribery and tampering with a sports contest from a level 9 non-person felony to a level 8. Sections 12 and 16 require the governor to negotiate in good faith with any federally recognized Native American tribe that requests renegotiation of a gaming compact to include sports wagering. Section 17 adds a number of definitions to the Kansas Lottery Act for conducting sports wagering. They include definitions for interactive sports wagering platform, match fixing, sporting event, sports wagering, and sports wagering revenues. I'd note that the term sporting event includes motor races and horse races, but excludes Greyhound races and any event involving high schoolers unless the majority of the participants are at least 18 years of age. Lastly, the lottery game facility games, which are the games authorized for casinos, it strikes the reference to tribal gaming facilities and allows those games that are allowed at any licensed gaming facility in the United States. Section 18 directs the lottery to adopt rules and regs for sports wagering. It also prohibits certain types of online lottery games, and then those restrictions are repeated again in Section 21. Section 19 requires the first $750,000 credited to the lottery operating fund to be transferred to the white collar crime fund. Section 23 deals with the provision, the percentages of sports wagering revenues retained by the state. So under these provisions, the state would retain 5.5% of sports wagering revenues from wagers placed in person at a casino and 8% of revenues from wagers placed through a platform. An additional 2% of all sports wagering revenues would be paid to the Problem Gambling and Addictions Grant Fund. Section 24 would require the Racing and Gaming to conduct background checks and issue certifications for management and employees of organizations involved in casino management. Section 26 would allow a patron of a lottery gaming facility to fund an account that was held by a sports wagering manager for the payment of sports wagers through the use of cash, electronic bank transfers, wire transfers, debit and credit cards, online and mobile applications, payment systems, promotional funds provided by the lottery gaming facility manager, and any payment method that was approved by the lottery. So these are exceptions to current law that prohibit the extension of credit to patrons of a lottery gaming facility. Section 28, the statute currently lists those individuals who are prohibited from gambling at a racetrack or lottery gaming facility. The Senate Bill 84 would strike several individuals included for immediate family members of officers and employees. Section 30 would prohibit certain individuals from placing sports wagers. Section 31 would require the Secretary of KDADS to ensure that an adequate problem gambling treatment services network was available in Kansas to individuals seeking treatment for pathological gambling disorder. The use of the monies in the fund would also be clarified to require to be used to fund a helpline for the treatment and prevention of pathological gambling and other co-occurring behavioral health disorders. Section 32 lastly would increase the annual transfer to the Problem Gambling and Addictions Grant Fund from $80,000 to $100,000. And he'd be happy to try to answer questions the committee might have.
Thank you, Matt. Good job. Section 32, and the increased annual transfer to the Problem Gaming and Addiction Grant Fund. Is that an annual? It's not like they have in the horse fund where they get to a limit and then there's no more funds.
Thank you. That's an annual transfer in statute. That's currently 80,000. It'd be increased to 100,000. That's separate from the 2% of sports wagering revenues that would be set aside for the fund.
Okay. One other question. You mentioned they had to keep the records for 30 days. Is that a change from the original bill? Because in the original bill, my draft was that they had 60 days to make such records available for inspection by the Kansas Lottery and KRGC.
Let me double check the original bill and the current draft, and I'll answer that after maybe a conferee testifies.
Okay, thank you. Questions of the reviser committee? Seeing none, we're going to go right into conferees. We have a number of them. We've got a number of proponents, opponents, and neutrals. So we're going to start out, and my vice chair has divided the time up. Madam Vice Chair, they each get 3 minutes. Thank you. Then we'll leave a time for questions of each of the conferees, and we'll do the questions at the end of the proponents, and then again at the end of the opponents, and at the end of the neutrals. First up, by WebEx, Jeff Morris with Penn National Gaming. Mr. Morris, are you on the line?
I am, Chairman. Thank you.
Please go forward, sir.
Good morning to you, sir, and to members of the committee. My name is Jeff Morris, and I am the Vice President of Public Affairs and Government Relations for Penn National Gaming, the nation's largest regional gaming operator with 41 facilities throughout the United States, and the proud operator of Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway. We have retail sports books at nearly half of our properties and currently offer online wagering on sports in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Illinois. We anticipate we'll be operational with our mobile sports book in at least 10 states by the end of this year, all under the Barstool Sports brand, of which we acquired a 36% stake roughly a year ago. While my submitted testimony includes significant details on the benefits of sports wagering in Kansas, I'd like to focus specifically on official league data and limiting retail and mobile sports betting to existing casino gaming operators in my oral testimony. Although official league data is not included in SB 84, we are aware the leagues continue to press for inclusion. Most, if not all, of the leagues have sold their data to the major suppliers like Sportradar and BetGenius, whom the operators are compensating for the data feeds we provide our sports books. Many gaming providers, including Penn National, have signed commercial deals with the leagues for specialized proprietary in-game data to grow interest in sports wagering. This proves that these deals can be reached privately and should not be legislatively mandated at what third parties declare to be commercially reasonable terms, which may be inconsistent with the thin revenue margins of sportsbook operators in a hyper-competitive environment. We also believe it is critical that the operation of retail and mobile sports betting be limited to existing casino gaming operators and our skin partners, also known as mobile platform providers. And while the number of skins permitted varies by state, New Jersey, Iowa, Indiana, and West Virginia allow at least 3 skins per licensee, ensuring a competitive market. Notably, New Jersey and Indiana, even when adjusting for population, are the leading revenue-producing states. Conversely, the lowest revenue-producing states for mobile wagering include Rhode Island, Oregon, New Hampshire, and Washington, D.C., all of which currently run single platform models by the state's lottery division. Importantly, the gaming industry has well-established, rigorous compliance and responsible gaming protocols in place to ensure a safe wagering environment for consumers. In addition to comprehensive and stringent state gaming regulations, we are required to undergo extensive federal anti-money laundering training programs and have been defined as financial institutions under the Bank Secrecy Act. We have in place sophisticated customer identification procedures, which includes reporting suspicious transactions, while further regulating, supervising, and monitoring anti-money laundering operations. Operating such a complex security system is expensive and extremely labor-intensive. We spend millions of dollars annually on surveillance equipment, personnel, and security officers to maintain a safe and secure environment for our customers, both at our facilities and on our mobile platforms. Notably,
30 seconds.
Thank you. Notably, this model has proven effective in legalization and operation of the most successful sports betting jurisdictions across the country, and we are hopeful that Kansas will follow these best practices as you consider joining 25 states and Washington, D.C. in legalizing sports betting. Thank you for your time, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. And I apologize for limiting the time, but I need to try to get everybody in. We never limit, of course, written testimony, and our committee members will go through that. Next up would be Kevin Fowler with the Boot Hill Casino and Resort. Good morning, Mr. Fowler. You may take your mask off if you choose to. You're not compelled to. And if you'll hit the blue button. I guess maybe yours may be red.
It's red now.
Okay, you're good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Kevin Fowler. I'm a lawyer with the Topeka law firm of Frieden and Forbes, and I am appearing today on behalf of the manager of the Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Dodge City. Boot Hill would very much like your support for Senate Bill 84. It is a bill whose time has come. For those of you on the committee who may be new, I'd like to let you know that Kansas adopted the Kansas Expanded Lottery Act in 2007 with the enactment of Senate Bill 66. And at that time, the state made a decision that casino-style gaming, which was authorized by constitutional amendment, would be permitted in Kansas through 4 casino managers located in 4 designated gaming zones in the state. That model has been in effect for more than 10 years. There are 4 casino managers in the state that manage each of the brick and mortar casino facilities. I think you will hear from all of them today, and I would like to let you know that the benefit of the KELA framework is we not only have more than a decade of actual operation under it, but in that time it has been extremely successful. In 2008, the Kansas Supreme Court upheld its constitutionality, and we think that the KELA framework, given its proven track record of success, is the appropriate framework for offering sports wagering in the state of Kansas. That's the reason that we support Senate Bill 84. It builds on an existing record of success and provides limited retail outlets for sports wagering while making it available to patrons over the internet and mobile applications in the event that they are not able to get out to the brick and mortar facilities. It's not an activity that's going to make a great deal of money, but as the casinos come out of the pandemic, as the rest of Kansas will be doing hopefully in the very near future, it provides an additional source of entertainment and amenities to our patrons and will hopefully drive traffic to the 4 brick and mortar casinos that are located in the state. We are opposed to broader retail sports wagering, which had been suggested by some others, because we don't think that Kansas would like to see a sports book on virtually every convenience store, gas station in the state. We would urge your support for Senate Bill 84, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Fowler. Thank you for coming here today. Next up is Paul Davis. Folks, this is the distinguished Paul Davis, former minority leader, and one very good, I consider him a friend. He's a good guy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's an honor to be before your committee here. I am appearing on behalf of the Kansas Crossing Casino, which is located in southeast Kansas, just south of Pittsburgh, and I thought it might be helpful to provide the committee with a little bit of a historical perspective on gaming in Kansas and how that relates to the sports wagering discussion that's before you. Back in the early 2000s, the governor appointed a commission that was going to study the issue of gaming, look at the possibility of having casinos. We are not like Nevada and other states where if you just want to build a casino to a large degree, you can go out and do that. We have a unique provision in our state's constitution that requires that gaming facilities be state-owned and operated. And the 4 casinos that we have in the state are state-owned and operated, and the state contracts with a casino manager. The 4 casinos were established by Senate Bill 66, as the previous conferee mentioned, back in 2007. And the legislature decided to set up those 4 gaming zones where each zone could have a casino because there were regions that wanted to have that, but they also were looking at really what the market could bear. And since that time, the market has really only gotten more competitive because of what's going on just outside the borders of our state. The bill also contained another component dealing with what were at the time 4 existing racetracks. The racetrack owners were struggling. They came to the legislature asking for the authority to install a limited number of slot machines in order to get the tracks open again, and the legislature agreed with them and wanted to have the tracks open. The difficulty has been is that the bargain that they struck has not been a bargain that works for them, and so they have been coming back to you asking you to change that bargain. So the legislature gave casinos a degree of exclusivity for a reason. They're state-owned and operated. We want them to succeed, and the market just simply has limitations. And I would submit to you that whatever you think about gaming, this legislature did enact Senate Bill 66, and we've got 4 casinos as a result. And that brings me to the sports wagering discussion. We think that Kansans want to have the ability to engage in sports wagering, and then the question becomes, well, who's going to do it and how are we going to do it? Casinos have significant expertise in this area. They know how to implement successful sports wagering programs. Additionally, there is a risk that comes to this, and the question is, who's going to bear that risk, the state or the casino managers? And there are numerous examples out there of where states have decided to assume that risk, and they've taken a beating as a result of it. We believe that you have a good sports wagering bill that is before you. It's going to allow Kansans who want to engage in that activity to do that, and they can do so in an environment where it is regulated and is managed by people who know how to do it very well. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
If you'll remain for questions at some
Yes,
point.
certainly. Thank you.
Next up is Ryan Soltz, Boyd Gaming, Kansas Star.
Morning,
He's
Mr.
on
Chairman.
WebEx. I'm sorry. Are you on, sir?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman.
Ryan, go forward, sir.
Thank you. I'm Ryan Soltz, Vice President of Governmental Affairs for Boyd Gaming Corporation. Boyd Gaming is one of the largest casino entertainment companies in the United States with 28 properties in 10 states, including in Kansas, where we are the lottery facility manager for the South Central Zone and operate the Kansas Star Casino in Mulvane. In interest of time, Mr. Chairman, since many of the conferees have hit key points that I will cover, I would like everyone to refer to my written testimony, but I'd like just to hit a few key points rather quickly. Certainly, while our company is very familiar with the gaming business, we've been engaged in sports wagering for over 40 years. We've operated sports books in Nevada for several decades, and in more recent years have been at the forefront of bringing sports wagering to bettors and communities throughout this part of the United States in conjunction with our partnership with FanDuel. As one of the conferees mentioned, 25 states to date have legalized sports betting. We believe Kansas is in a unique position to learn from what has really worked well in the states that have legalized it to date, and in some of the states that have not had quite the desired results. We believe that many of the key tenets of the states that have had success are outlined in Senate Bill 84, namely, limiting sports wagering to the casinos and their mobile platform providers. There are a multitude of reasons for this. First and foremost is the strict licensure standards for gaming entities. Those standards help ensure that there's strict oversight, that abnormal or suspicious activity is reported to regulators, that people know that they're getting a fair bet, and more importantly, that the state and bettors know they'll receive their winnings or their revenue when we succeed. Secondly, there's a vast illegal offshore market, and by having multiple platform providers through the casinos, we offer bettors choice. By offering bettors choice, you have a competitive marketplace. This competitive marketplace leads to innovation in terms of odds, pricing. Moreover, it provides the casinos an opportunity to cross-market and cross-promote against new brands. This helps enhance some of the policy goals of KELA by driving economic development to the facility manager properties in the respective gaming zones. We've seen an uptick in brick and mortar business as a result from sports betting with the revenue share the state receives. And one of my colleagues touched on the legal portions, and so I'm not going to rehash that whole argument. But when you look at the sports wagering margins that are extremely thin, a couple of things to keep in mind as you look at this. First, any mandates where there is not an arm's length negotiation between the operator and the data providers would drive up the cost. We think that the states that have had the most success have not included this provision. It allows the market to work. It allows, frankly, room for new entrants. There may be entrants in the marketplace that don't exist today. That leads to innovation and attractive pricing that shows up through odds. The second piece of this is a low revenue share or tax rate.
Thank you,
if
sir.
the revenue share tax rate is too high, it will force the operator, because we do have to be profitable.
Your time has expired.
Reflect this in odds or pricing that's not competitive with you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I have to do that. Sometimes it looks rude when I do that, but I want to make sure I get everybody that's here today heard. And those are the ground rules, but you do, again, I will say we do not limit written testimony. On occasion, well, almost every day we have to limit the amount of time. We have a short period of time in here, and as soon as we leave at 10:28, and at 10:30, the Senate Judiciary Committee comes in here, so we try to get out before they come in. And I want to recognize Representative Potter. Did you have to swim in this morning?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I didn't, fortunately, but I might have to swim back home. The Merdizine's almost overflowing.
Okay, well, I knew that you'd had a lot of rain and you had a culvert out, and I didn't know if, when you texted me last night, I just want to let you know it would be okay, but I just thought maybe you had to swim in this morning, so.
No.
Okay. The chair will direct you to the written proponents, Bruce Christensen, Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. We have a short amount of time here for questions from the committee. Committee members. Seeing no questions, we're going to move straight into the opponents. We have opponents listed, the distinguished representative from the committee, Representative Arnkamp. Again, Representative, if you'll watch the monitor, she'll let you know when your time's up.
Mr. Chairman, 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Appreciate the opportunity to testify today in opposition to the bill. There's 3 reasons. I'll go over them quickly and then try to dive into the numbers as I see them and also a few additional points. The 3 reasons are: first, the numbers. Under this bill, the Kansas Lottery receives only a small percentage of the hold. Rough estimates based on my research on the topic, which I'm happy to discuss further, show that the lottery is only receiving, in my opinion, about 1/10 of the potential revenue. Second reason I oppose the bill is the obligation I believe we have due to the Constitution, the language and intention that allows gambling in Kansas. I believe the people of Kansas voted this constitutional amendment in because they intended the money to go to the state general fund, to help offset taxes. And I believe it's our responsibility as the legislature, the lobbyists of the people of Kansas, to negotiate the best possible deal on their behalf. And the third reason is the control of personal information and the oversight of problem gambling. I believe if the lottery has more oversight over this and control, they will be able to do a better job there. Diving into the numbers, in my testimony, I have a little grid of the example of the numbers. These are rough estimates. There's a lot of numbers even in the fiscal note. We see numbers even ranging up to $1 billion, even beyond that, especially in the upcoming years. Some of the more common estimates are about $600 million will be bet annually in Kansas. Of that $600 million, people often estimate around 94% of that will be paid back in winnings, which gives about 6% of what's called a hold or gross revenue to the state. That 6% of $600 million is $36 million. Where does that $36 million go? Under this bill, about 7%, roughly, depending on how the tax percentage goes, would go to the state. That's about $2.5 million. If the lottery were to run this, I believe the lottery has an overhead and contractual fees with platforms of about anywhere from 25 to 15%. That means the lottery would give the state general fund about $27 million. It's a significant difference. My 3 minutes is up. Okay. Happy to stand for questions as needed, Mr. Chairman.
Again, committee opponents will have questions. Tom Palance, Fuel True. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Federal and State Affairs.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am Tom Pallas. I represent Fuel True, which we represent the independent energy and convenience stores throughout the state of Kansas. And we stand before you in opposition for only one reason, because we're not in the bill. If you recall, we did testify on 2199 as a proponent because retailers are in that bill. There are approximately 1,700 lottery retailers throughout the state today. Convenience stores, we have around 1,100. And we're always looking for ways to generate more people into our stores, or more products that we can sell to them. And this would, to us, would be a natural fit. We work directly through the lottery. We're contracted with the lottery. We have financial responsibility with the lottery, and they can shut us off if they so desire. We've looked at, I've talked to a number of our retailers out there, and yes, we have about 1,100. I can't tell you today how many would actually participate in this bill. However, I've been told by a number of our large chains that they have interest. Rural America, that it could be a nice profit center for them, if you will, of getting people into the store, because they may not go to Kansas City, they may not go to these other casinos to do any type of gaming, but at the same time, the programs that we offer are all dictated by lottery, and we think that if it's a lottery sponsored game, that convenience retailers should be able to participate. It offers another choice. We heard the gentleman earlier say that that's a better choice at the casinos. We offer another choice as a tier one entity, where we would only take bets of the end result of a game, the winning or losing of a game. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if we are included in this bill, then we would be supportive. But at this point, we are not, so we are an opponent.
Thank you. You'll remain for questions. Next up would be Jim Garland, National Greyhound Association. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Federal and State.
Morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Jim Garland. I'm the Executive Director of the National Greyhound Association in Abilene, Kansas. We've been located in Abilene since 1944. Abilene is also the home of the Greyhound Hall of Fame. And Kansas has, and Abilene in particular, there's more greyhounds raised than anywhere in the country. And Kansas, and in particular Abilene, is known as the greyhound capital of the world. We are opposed to this bill for obvious reasons, because it excludes greyhound racing. I just want to note that in similar legislation a couple years ago in West Virginia, lawmakers not only soundly defeated a resolution or a bill similar to this, but actually promoted and emphasized that they should expand greyhound racing because of the potential they saw. They're realizing that now, as the tracks in West Virginia this year have so far in the first quarter on pace to handle $75 million, which is 3 times as much as they've ever done in their history. So the state's reaping those benefits now. Being excluded from this bill would essentially cripple the industry further, would force farms in Kansas to possibly close or cut back severely. We've lost so many so far. And greyhound racing has been a part of the fabric of the Kansas agriculture for hundreds of years, and we'd like to continue that to be so. Any exclusion of this is somewhat discriminatory and could mount legal challenges down the road, which nobody wants to see. We ask that you oppose this bill on the fact that it does exclude greyhounds, and we appreciate any support we could get. We'll be around for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Tanya Peter, Greyhound Pets of America. Oh, written only, sorry. Yeah, Michael Strickland. Good morning, sir. Welcome to Federal and State Affairs.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Michael Strickland. I'm from Abilene, Kansas. I am in opposition to SB 84 because of the unnecessary language to remove greyhound racing. I'm a third-generation greyhound breeder, but my family background for generations has been in agriculture with cattle and hogs. Our operation has hired 4 veterinarians over the years to help on the operation with staff and employees. We are very proud of the work we do with our animals, whether they be cattle, hogs, or greyhounds. And I'm very proud of my 2 daughters that have grown up raising the animals. And my daughter is involved in agility in the AKC world, and people involved and locally understand this issue as well. There's one point I want to make here today that's contradicting to many media reports and talking points in terms of the legality of Greyhound racing. You often hear the word that it has been banned in 2/3 of the states nationwide. I thought I would read a quote from a statement that was released. The quote comes from the chairman of the Association of Racing Commission International in response to false reporting and campaigning to try and ban racing. This report and statement was put out and reposted in 2018. The chairman in his statement responded to a campaign flyer stated recipients were told in the very first line of the report Greyhound racing is illegal in 39 states. In fact, live Greyhound racing is illegal only in one state, Idaho. Simulcasting of Greyhound racing is, however, legal and conducted as is live horse racing and simulcasting. Now, this statement is important because it's important to note that the ARCI is the governing group that actually creates rules and oversees and regulates racing around the world. The final point I'd like to make is the retired racing greyhound has become a pet phenomenon. The socialization as they're being raised and how they're handled at racetracks have made for great transition into homes. It's kind of like getting a kid that's been well socialized and grows up to be a good adult. We've received tremendous support from the adoption community on this matter. They've submitted testimony, and I have also had many people ask for me to speak. Again, I oppose SB 84 and appreciate any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The last opponent would be Nick Rediker on WebEx. Nick, are you on WebEx?
Mr. Chairman, are you able to hear me?
Yes, go forward, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Nick Reinecker from Inman, Kansas. I'm an opponent to the bill just for the simple fact that I believe that in regards to the Problem Gambling and Addictions Grant Fund, that any money that is collected from sports wagering or gambling at all should be used specifically for problem gambling, including gambling disorder, as prescribed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Diseases. I would prefer it not be the DSM-5, but done off the DSM-4. I'm hesitant to be a proponent for DSM-5 language codified in statutes, but the main point is I'm an opponent because the money that comes from gambling should be put for gambling problems, because we have at the same time we're trying to prevent and recover from gambling disorders, we're also promoting gambling through state-owned gambling apparatus. I could go on for a while, but I will respect the committee process and time allowed and say that is why I'm here. Thank you, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, sir. That is all the opponents I have that are listed to offer oral testimony. I would direct the committee to the written opponents. They are listed on your copy of your agenda. There's 4 of them. At this time, I will open it up for questions. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not sure how you pronounce this name. Representative Francis Auerkamp? No N, Auerkamp?
That's pretty close. I think he is paying attention. You want to come up, Representative?
Sir, you seem to be a whiz on numbers. I'm not. Could you recap what you were saying about the dollars from the various approaches that we would approach this subject in terms of how much money might come if we were to go an iLottery approach versus the Senate bill? You understand the question? You have a puzzled look on your face. You always look that way.
I'm trying to figure out a first way to explain the strange pronunciation of Awerkamp. AW typically is aw, but for some odd reason, somewhere back in the family line, they decided to change that. Yes, I understand the question. Representative, thank you. It's just a process on how. First, a small point. iLottery may not be, in my mind, the best way to describe a sports wagering app because it's a specific app, in my mind, just for sports wagering. So it doesn't have to do with lottery games. This is just a sports wagering app. So the options, one is to offer it to the casino managers. If the casino managers ran sports wagering, the state would charge them a tax. That tax is, in the ballpark, if you round it all together between brick and mortar on-site and app, 7, maybe 8% would come to the state. So looking at the estimates of the total wagered amount, 600 million, and then the hold, the actual gross revenue kept by the casino managers, at estimates of about 6% hold, so 36 million. You apply that 8% tax, 8% tax to that 36 million. That would give a revenue to the state of about $2.5, maybe $3 million. The other option, and this is why I'm opposed to the current bill, the other option is to allow the state lottery to run sports wagering through an online app. If the state lottery followed the same numbers, 600 million wagered, 6% hold, $36 million then to work with. After having spoken with the lottery over the past few years and also taking a look at the Oregon lottery, which is set up similar, there's differences of opinions on what amount or what percentage of that hold of that 36 million would actually go to the state. Based on my numbers, I've seen as low as 15% of that 36 million would go to overhead and contract fees. I've seen around 25, maybe 30% of that hold would go to contract fees and overhead. But regardless, let's just say, in my opinion, it's about 75% of the hold would end up going to the state general fund, which if you apply that to the 36 million is about $27 million. And so looking at the two numbers there, it's about $2.5 to $3 million versus around 27 million. What I think is even more significant is if we take a look at frequent holds around the country, I think they're closer to 9–10%. From my understanding, where that 6% hold comes from is that's kind of how it's all set up. That's if everybody bet intelligently. That's how the game is set up to bring in about a 5 to 6% hold. Unfortunately, people don't often bet intelligently. They bet kind of more emotionally or silly, and that's what produces a higher hold. So if you take a look at average holds in a lot of states around the country, it's closer to 9–10% from what I'm seeing. And I think the data from the Oregon lottery from July of last year through January of this year, they're just under 10%, 9.56% of a hold. And their net profit on that hold is 42%, but after talking to the Oregon lottery, they said that number is inaccurate because what they also did with their overhead costs is they spread more overhead across the entire Oregon lottery onto the sports wagering book. So the sports wagering book actually made the rest of the lottery more profitable because it helped spread the overhead.
Thank you. Thank you. Further questions? Follow up? Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Wagner. And who would you direct that to?
Yes, actually, to Representative Awerkamp, I think
Very well.
you're probably I just want to ask again, I see that the numbers here that you present in your testimony are pretty revealing. I mean, frankly, almost shocking from just a business person standpoint, that I see the confirmation of your numbers on SB 7084, because that is actually in the division of the budget testimony, the 7%. But I just want to confirm that the numbers you have on the lottery, this approximately 25%, you're basing that on historical data from other states? Is that who have a similar setup? Is that where you're getting roughly? It seems like a middle number that you're picking there.
So yes, Representative, thank you. So where does the 75% net revenue of the hold, where do I get the 75% from? A few years ago, I had the opportunity to do a subcommittee on sports wagering. Looking at these numbers, I wanted to know what is that percentage that the state would get if the lottery ran it. I understand the tax on the casino managers, but if the lottery ran it, what would that percentage be? This isn't an official statement of the lottery, but after working with them, they said there's a lot of questions, but they were, the data I received or the information I received was that somewhere in the 85% would go to the state. That may be a little bit high. So looking at the state of Oregon, that was another one where the lottery runs sports wagering through scoreboard. And they had a lot of startup costs. They're spreading their overhead. But for instance, for the month of January, their net profit, not counting the spread of overhead, was 52%. And that's from a very small, still startup stage where they only bet on professional, not even college.
Thank you.
Just one quick follow-up. So basically, over a 10-year period, you have a differential of basically $25 million to state revenue versus literally $250 million. I mean, that's basically what you're telling us, correct?
Yes, Representative, and actually I think it's tremendously more because this is all based off of a hold of around 6%, which I think the hold's going to be closer to the national averages recently of about 9%. Okay. And I think sports wagering will go up, so I think it's actually going to be closer to $40 million a year, if not more.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, I'll move to the neutrals. Neutrals, we have 3 here for oral testimony. First up, Terry Humphreys, Humane Society of Kansas. Terry, are you? I see you. Good morning and welcome to Federal and State Affairs.
Thank you very much, sir. Chairman Barker and members of the committee, I am Terry Humphrey. I am the lobbyist for the Humane Society of the United States and also for stray dog policy. Today, I have the privilege of representing 47 animal welfare organizations across Kansas. Senate Bill 84 was amended in the Senate Federal and State Affairs Committee to prohibit sports wagering on greyhound racing. With that amendment, our organizations became neutral. The prohibition of sports wagering on greyhound racing was also supported by the Kansas Senate. There was a floor amendment offered that would have reversed that and allowed sports wagering on greyhound racing, and that amendment was soundly defeated. The vast majority of senators, along with your constituents, oppose greyhound racing. Due to animal cruelty and a declining revenue, 41 states have indeed made greyhound racing illegal. At this time, there are only 4 states that have active tracks. The state of Arkansas, the track there will close at the end of 2022. I ask that you resist any effort to amend this bill to permit sports wagering on greyhound racing. As long as this legislation is not altered to allow sports wagering on Greyhound racing, our organizations will remain neutral. Thank you for your attention, and I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have John Goodyear with the League of Kansas Municipalities.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Good morning. My name is John Goodyear, and I'm staff attorney for the League of Kansas Municipalities. I'll be brief, committee, because you've heard this similar testimony from me before. The League is neutral on sports gambling, but we would ask again that as the committee gives thought to this expansion, whether it's through the House version of the bill or the Senate version of the bill, that a share of revenue for local governments be considered. Remember that in current law, gaming facilities contribute 3% of their revenue to local government entities, and the purpose of that is to help our local governments offset the costs that are associated with having those facilities in their city or in their county. As written, Senate Bill 84 excludes that local piece by excluding sports wagering from the definition of lottery gaming facility revenues. We expect that traffic to our facilities are going to be increasing as a product of this legislation, and that increased traffic means increased costs for our local government entities. We would ask, again, that as the committee considers this bill or another bill, that a provision be made for local government entities to receive a proportional share of the revenues from sports wagering. I know that, especially in Senate Bill 84, that the state is taking a much smaller share than they were from the rest of the facility revenues, so it would make sense that local governments would take less, but we would ask that a piece be considered. And Mr. Chairman, I will stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you. I have one more. Deb Sidham, Kansas Association of Addiction Professionals. She's on WebEx. Deb, are you on WebEx?
I am. Good morning, Chairman Barker. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of neutral testimony for SB 84. My name is Deb Stidham. I'm here today representing the Kansas Association of Addiction Professionals and Addiction Prevention and Treatment Provider Trade Association, which has been in existence since 1974. Our membership includes agencies located all over the state and providing an array of services from outpatient to residential. An estimated 46,000 adults in Kansas are believed to suffer from a gambling disorder. The 2017 Kansas Gambling Survey determined that nearly 3% of Kansas adults are considered high risk for suffering from a gambling disorder. This population is 10 times more likely to attempt suicide, and the co-occurring rates for mental illness and substance use disorders is significant. In addition, seniors and our youth are also vulnerable to gambling problems. Unfortunately, many of these problems go undetected for years until the problem has progressed to the point of criminal activity, bankruptcy, and suicide. CAP believes that everyone who profits from sports betting bears responsibility for addressing gambling problems. The only way to maximize benefits from sports betting is to minimize problem gambling. A 2018 report from the National Council on Problem Gambling found that 60% of Kansans believe that the gambling industry and the government should do more to help people with a gambling addiction. Specifically, 57% indicated that if sports betting were to be legalized, revenues from sports betting should be set aside for public awareness campaigns and to treat individuals who develop gambling problems. The National Council on Problem Gambling 2016 survey of problem gambling services nationwide found that the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services had a budget of $889,000 for problem gambling services. This is roughly 31 cents per capita. As such, Kansas ranks 16th out of the 40 states that receive public funding and slightly below the 37 cents per capita average spending and far below the highest funded state. I just want to add that Mr. Reineker's testimony and I are in concert in believing that more of the net revenue should be attributed to problem gambling prevention and treatment.
Yep, 30
so in
seconds.
short, Okay. We urge the committee to adopt the Senate amendment that specifically directs at least 2% of net revenues be allocated from sports betting into the Problem Gambling and Addiction Fund. In addition, it also fixes the original statutory language to ensure that these revenues are used for their intended purpose and no other governmental reason. When they expanded gaming in 2007, they recognized the importance of addressing problem gambling, but also the long-standing funding deficits in the alcohol and drug system. These service gaps have been fully articulated in the 2020 Mental Health Modernization and Reform Committee, as well as the 2018 Governor's Substance Use Disorder Task Force. This bill, as amended, would begin to address those deficits. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Also, committee directs you to the written neutrals. Mike O'Neill, National Football League Association. Questions for the neutrals? Committee. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Trevor?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe that this question may be best suited for Ms. Humphreys, please.
Okay, Ms. Humphreys.
In your testimony, you mentioned, I believe you mentioned that there was 41 states that have made dog racing illegal. We heard some other testimony that there's only one state in the union that has made it illegal. Could you provide those other states that have made Greyhound racing illegal, please?
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I would be happy to do that. I don't have that list and statutory documentation with me today, but I can provide you with that documentation.
Would you?
Right away. Yes, I would.
Direct it to Connie, and then Connie can get it out to the committee.
I can do that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Further questions of the neutrals? Seeing none, I will close that portion of it. Committee, after we conclude this hearing, I would like for the committee members to remain until we're adjourned. We have a couple of other subjects that we need to discuss. Is there any other neutrals appearing today? Seeing none, close that portion. Anyone we've not heard from on House Bill, or strike that. Substitute for Senate Bill 84. Seeing none, I will close the hearing on substitute Senate Bill 84. Okay, thank you folks for coming here today. Committee, I've got a couple of other items I need to talk to you about. One, as you all are well aware, we're going to go on, all of us, on the House floor today. So those folks that's been in the East and the West galleries, I know are very happy. The question I want to talk to you about is, should we go back to our regular committee hearings, which means we would all be around the tables here? I would like to have your input on that. Speakers kind of left it up to the committees. So I would just want to hear from you. We would, of course, we would be in closer quarters, but if you would feel comfortable, go ahead. That's true. And I'm talking to the Senate Judiciary Committee. I'm talking to the House Judiciary Committee. And there's one other committee that meets here, but we're all, you're exactly right. All the committee chairs will have to agree, but then we would be moving those microphones that are in the back to the tables. But we do not want to do that unless the members are comfortable with that. Yes, Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to express that I am comfortable with making such a move and an arrangement sitting next to my colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. There is an advantage, this camaraderie. We're not so separated, and we get to talk. But I want to hear from the committee, the members. Representative Heiberger, would you like the floor?
Yeah, I'd be happy. I'd be comfortable with that too, provided that everybody who's at the table is vaccinated.
But yeah, this is just an inquiry that I need to make. I'll confer with the other committee chairs because the IT guy is correct. if we do that, all those that meet in this room, all the chairs will have to agree to it. Although I'm not sure the Senate already sits at, they only have 9 members, I believe, 7 or 9, so it's not a big deal. But the House Judiciary Committee also meets in here, and they have 23 members as we do. So, but it's just a thought. I'd like to hear from you, get your feedback. Yes, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would be comfortable sitting next to certain members. I will provide you a list of those I wish not to.
Well, I doubt if one of them will be me, but do you have a comment for the Reverend, I was going to call him the Reverend, the Representative Miller?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay, you had your hand up.
Just in regards to your question, sir, I have no problem sitting back here or sitting at the table, whatever you think is best. There's really not a bad seat in the House, so whatever you decide, and committee will. I have no problem sitting back here.
Well, personally, I don't like all these folks at my back. I never get to see when they raise their hand. But those are things that we'll have to talk about. But I will be talking with the House Judiciary Committee to see if he's in agreement. And I will also talk with the Senate chairman, although I don't really think it affects their life because of the small number of people they have. But if you could, either contact me or, of course, the vice chair or the ranking member. Just give us your, and of course, we'll look for your list, Representative Miller. We'll hand that to the ranking member, and you may be the only person in the back, but that's okay. Just one last thing. Tomorrow we'll be working. We'll be working on Monday, Tuesday. We may be working bills on Wednesday of next week. It may be the bill that we heard yesterday. If we have time tomorrow, we may work that bill also. That was the alcohol bill that needed the amendment. So we could do that. But other than that, I expect next week we'll be working every day. We've got until, what, the 5th of April? So in the last week we'll be on the floor most of the time. So time is getting short. We'll be moving things around. I've got a few more hearings that I need to hear. With that, anything for the good of the committee? Seeing none, we are